You are listening to the Train More Playlist podcast, the answers edition to your question. Jason and I were actually talking, and since we have been getting a lot of questions from you guys, and we do want to approach, so we're going to be doing is launching one podcast on Wednesday, and that's just going to be Jason answering all the questions. So feel free for you guys to email. Like I said, we're going to be putting a section in the comments where you have the YouTube channel for a podcast, but you guys know how to get a hold of us. So just send us any questions you want. Wednesdays are dedicated to answering your questions. To start off, everybody, good morning. I'm here with Jason Garcia, as you guys know, and there's actually been a few questions we want to talk about. I think, Jason, we have two questions that we want to get into. Jason, why don't you bring up the first question? Why don't you dive into that?
Yeah, first again, thank you for, bringing the questions. I think it's good, like Jared said, that, we could answer all the questions or give our opinions to create this community. But the first one is, we got was someone wrote, is it true that you don't allow your kids to play for other teams? And just to follow through with it was, you're a control freak. That's why no one plays for you. It is true. I do not let, our players play for other teams. Now, our players are allowed to play for special teams. For an example, if they get picked up to play for USA Baseball, or if they get to make a team for Perfect Game, I just call them special teams. So these are teams that players try out for, or other organizations are interested in them to play for certain teams. Our kids are allowed to do that type of stuff. Our kids are not allowed to play just for a random team right down the street or a competitor or anything like that. Again, I don't think I'm a control freak. I just like to do things the right way. Mm-hmm. If you play baseball at high school, right, and you have a weekend off, you're not going to be able to go play for another high school on that weekend. It's the same thing at, in college baseball. You have a weekend off, you're not just going to be able to go right down the street and play for another university. And it's the same thing in the pro level. If you're playing for a certain pro team and you have a weekend off, you're not going to be allowed to go play for another pro team. So, again, we're just trying to do the things that are right. We're trying to do the things that are taught at the next level with our kids. We don't want them, we don't want to train them in a different way, and all of a sudden they hit those levels and it's a big shock to them.
No, excuse my ignorance on this, but is that happening with a lot of programs? Or are people jumping from team to team and just playing with different types of kids and programs? Or what is that? Because I would expect coaches, from my standpoint, to say, no, this is the team that we're locking in. You're here with us. We're growing together.
Yeah, that's exactly what the travel baseball culture is. There's no loyalty. Uh-huh. Kids are just coming in and signing up with a certain team, but playing for, numerous teams. It's not just one team. Every weekend they're not playing. They're playing for another program.
Yeah.
And
there's gotta be negatives and positives in that, though, right? Like, what's the only positive, I guess, is for the parents to be able to say, I'm going to have them play wherever they want. But I think the negatives outweigh the positives in a lot of sense. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, well, for parents, the parents try to justify doing that by saying that they want their kids to get more reps, yeah. Right? And I don't believe that, because their team that they're signed up with already plays 100 games.
That's what I'm saying.
In 10 months.
Yeah.
So they're trying to justify letting their kids do that type of stuff by saying, hey, you know what, it's not a big deal. Our kids just want to go, and get reps. Like for me, I think it's disrespectful to the program that you're actually signed up with.
Yeah.
Now, again, I think it's disrespectful if you're in a program that actually trains you. Like,
right.
if you're growing up youth and you have a bunch of coaches that are spending their time developing you and training you, and then all of a sudden this coach calls and wants you just to go help them win a tournament, I think that's a slap in the face to the coaches and everyone that's spending time with you. And what I always tell parents is, why are coaches calling?
Mm-hmm.
Right? The coaches try to justify it by, oh, we're just short this weekend. We don't have enough players. Mm-hmm. We just want to borrow, whatever kid just so we could enter the tournament. But if it was really about that, you would call for any kid, right? Wouldn't you think?
Mm-hmm.
Coaches are not calling for the kids that are not good are not going to help them win. They just call for the kids that are actually good.
If you're a coach and you invest into a kid, same way I have in my business where I hire somebody, and if they're like, hey, I want to be 1099, but I'm going to be here only 2 hours with you a week, and I'm going to go, somewhere else and I'm not going to invest my time into them. Yep. So for a coach is, if this kid's bouncing around and going from different teams, subconsciously, why would you want to invest your time and your practices into a kid that's bouncing from different programs too? So I think the flip side is, okay, get more reps, but you can get reps a lot of different places. And like you said, it's like each team is how many games a year?
I mean, these teams are playing over 100 games in 10 months.
What should a kid really be playing?
We have a different standard than, majority of the programs out there, but let's just think about it this way. A college program, these are men, right? Full grown.
Yep.
They're playing, unless they move on through regionals and stuff, they're playing a 60-game schedule.
Huh.
So, I mean, our belief is, we have a different number of games that we feel each of our levels should be playing at, from, 9s all the way up to 14s.
Well, you can't compare high school and even the college kids at 9-year-old.
But we go off of that type of system. So I'm not gonna be having any of my kids that are younger than a college kid play more games than them. Just doesn't
100%.
make sense, right? Their bodies are not developed. They're not mature to do that yet. But again, that's all the travel baseball culture is worrying about, is just playing games. They're not worrying about, everything else. So everybody wants to be on the 10th floor. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to go from the first floor, the process. It's always the success stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, that's why we do it. We spend so much time with our kids. We spend so much time training them. And like I said, it's not being a control freak. It's just, this is what's going to be going on at the next level.
Yeah.
So why are we going to train you differently?
Yeah.
Like, you want to play high school? This is how it's going to be in high school. You want to play college? This is how it's going to be in college. You want to play pro? This is how it's going to be in pro. Yeah. Right? So that's what we're training our kids. If that's what you want to do, that's how we're training them, and for the coaches, and the coaches part, they just want to win tournaments, right? Because again, I mean, I know we talked about it before in the podcast prior, but if coaches are just showing that they win tournaments, the parents think that they're a great program. Mm-hmm. They don't do any research. It's just, wow, they're winning, they must be the best. So on the coaches side, that's why they're calling all the time for these players. They're finding out, oh my God, that kid could play from this organization, could play. Let's call their parents and let's get them out here for a certain tournament so we can win them. And then obviously that will generate more kids coming to our program based off our wins.
100%. I'm looking at this question too, and first of all, good question. I mean, I like we approach this. A lot of these questions, I mean, like I said, we like the negative because I think a lot of it's perspective. And I'm reading the last part. You're a control freak. That's why no one plays for you. I would take out the word freak, because the freak gets thrown out the window because of the perspective. You are controlling this. You should control this. If you understand what you're asking the kids to do, and if you want them to be loosey-goosey with no structure and go play for whoever they want, they're going to get to college, and all of a sudden something's going to go bad, and they're going to say, oh, I want to go somewhere else, because we're teaching them. So I think you have to have control. So, whoever put that question, that statement at the end, I agree with it. You are in control. I don't think you're a freak. I think you're in control. And that's how it should be in this situation where it's all perspective, and I think that just covers it.
And that's exactly what whoever wrote it or asking the question is, they're right.
Yeah,
people won't come play here because of the standards and the expectations. Right, you're totally right. This is what we do, but nowadays people don't like that. They just want to do whatever they want. They want to dictate programs. So, you're absolutely right. But you mentioned there has to be some positive and negative. The positive about it is, when the first question that I usually ask new families is, who have you played for? And the reason is because if they're telling me they've played for a bunch of teams, I mean, we get 10-year-olds that come in here, like, they'll tell me they've played for 4 or 5 teams. That's pretty much a new team every single year. I immediately know what type of family I'm dealing with. You know what I'm saying? I immediately know what I'm getting into. And it's the same thing that's going on in the college level, right? I was just talking with coaches the other day, and they were saying the first thing that we do is we check the social media of our recruits. Based off what they're posting or what they're reposting, it tells me already what kind of kid I'm dealing with.
So big.
Right?
It's huge. I mean,
so
it's everything.
it is a positive because we're trying to weed out, like we're trying to find the things that are gonna, have us not bring these people in. And it really helps us. It really helps us right off the bat. That's why I ask the question when we have new recruits coming through. I'm like, hey, who have you played for?
That's the biggest thing.
Boom. I mean, if I see them, they've been playing baseball for 8-9 years and they're on 1 or 2 teams only, solid, right? I can already tell what I'm going to be dealing with. They're playing baseball 5-6 years and they've been on 5 teams. I know what I'm dealing with. And then also on the flip side of that, the organizations that they tell me they've played for, because every organization has a different philosophy, I immediately know what I'm dealing with. So there is positive, a little bit of positive that I like about it because, like I said, I get to weed out the kids and not bring in the the bad vibes into our culture.
Let's jump in. I think the second question came in. You need to change with the time. You're stuck in old ways. Travel baseball and high school are all done the same way. I think that was more of a statement that I think we should cover. But do you think you're stuck in old ways?
No, but but when I saw this, it made me think because we're all guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. I always say, even with my own kids, I'm like, man, this generation's just different, right? And when I'm thinking about this, this is something to think about: is it the generation, or is it the parents of the generation?
The leaders.
Because we're the ones that brought them in here, right? We're the ones that are forming them the way that we want to form them. So we can't blame it on the generation. I hear, the new gen and all the stuff people are saying. But is it actually the generation, or is it the parents of the generation, the leaders of the generation? Who's leading the generation? They used to do it in the police department where, like when I first came on, a guy who's been on for 10 years, they always would say, oh, and when we were in the academy, it was so much tougher, and it was this and it was that. And it was like, okay, are the kids soft that are coming through the academy, or is the standards of the academy soft? And so when I'm looking at this question, I'm like, it's not the kids, it's not the generation. We can't blame it on the kids. It's the leaders of the generation. It's the parents. So you need to change with the new generation. I'm not going to change with the new generation, right? The new generation is good. The new kids are good, right? They have everything. They have technology. They have all the special training. I mean, these kids are good. They have everything at their hands to be successful. It's the leaders that are leading them that's screwing it up. Well, and that's my belief.
100%. Well,
that's my belief.
I'm looking at that question too, and it's interesting because the way that I'm reading it is you're stuck in your old ways, and it's what are the principles of the old ways, and if it's not broke, don't try to fix it. And I think it's things evolve with generations and different types of people trying different things. We have social media, a lot more things are exploding, and the sport is different. So we have to look at that and say, what is the core values? And realistically, I wish this question got a little more detail into what they're meaning by you're stuck in your old ways. Like, there's so many aspects that I think that you're so new era in some aspects, but other ways your principles are stuck.
Well, I'm thinking, just based off what we're talking about, what this podcast is about, I'm thinking about, they're referring to what everyone's doing nowadays with the sport, playing all these games, hopping around on different teams. So I'm thinking, they're referring to, this is the new generation. This is what's going on. Just go with it. But, think about it. I mean, it's easy just to go with it, right? It's hard to be a leader, right? It's hard to do things right. I mean, it's hard to be great. That's why there's only a few great people, So I could and I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of times that I say that I'm like, you know what? I should just do what everyone else is doing. I wouldn't have any headaches, right? Just let my kids play wherever they want to play. Don't care, as long as I'm getting my dues, I should be happy. But, I want to be able to sleep at night, and it bothers me inside. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take the easy way out. I'd rather struggle by doing things right, and everyone could. I mean, at the end of the day, I want people to remember me for, hey, he did things right. Whether I might only have a few teams, I might not even make enough, make money like what these other programs are making or doing whatever they're doing. But when people are going to think about me, they're going to be like, oh yeah, he did things right while he was here teaching our youth, And what I think about is like, again, the generation thing. It's not the generation, man. It's the parents of the new generation. They're the ones allowing the kids to play over 100 games, right? The kid's not just coming. The kid's not just waking up and saying, "Oh, mom, this year I want to play 100 games," right? It's the parents that are letting the kids do that, right? It's the parents that are making the decision to put them in these programs that allow that, and we'll never do that. I will never do that. I mean, I think that's a form of abuse. Mm-hmm. I mean, over 100 games on a 10-year-old, college kids don't even play that. Their bodies are not even developed to do that. I mean, that's just wear and tear.
The burnout phase that people don't realize is just, if you're just pounding these kids, it's just like anything. I'm learning it every single day in business too. It's burnout. It's, you can go, and I have a lot of passion for what I do in business, so I can go all day. But then you look at it and you're like, ooh, okay, I'm burnt out, and you don't realize it. Even if the kids love it, it might be a disservice to throw all the games at them all the time. So I think it's just it's knowing your kid too. I think it's the parents have to do a better job of knowing who their kid is, and we're not sitting here telling, hey, this is how you should raise your kids. We're just saying this is the regulations for baseball that gives your kids the best health and the longevity for the sport itself. It's up to you to do the whole, who your kid is and know who your kid is and where to put them. We'll teach them the character and the principles and standards we have, but it comes down to parenting.
Yeah, and I don't want people thinking, that we think that we're the best parents or best coaches. It's just, I think, again, it's the lack of the lack of the knowledge of just knowing what's going on. I don't think the parents are educated on, what's going on. I mean, a lot of the parents that have kids that play travel baseball, they didn't play at that level, of college or above, so they just don't know, and I think that's what's great about this podcast is, it takes a lot of courage for us to come out here and go against the grain and do this, but at the same time, it's going to save a lot of families. It's going to save a lot of kids, and at the end of the day, like I said, it's just it's the parents. I mean, and the parents are looking for that quick success, and they don't want their kids to work for it. I mean, new generation, like I said, I mean, there's so much stuff going on. I mean, we have, you see pros that are running and throwing these heavy balls, and you're doing all this, crazy stuff to be able to throw the baseball harder, right? But again, these are pros, right? Their bodies are developed, and then you'll get coaches that will start teaching that to 10, 11-year-olds, and then all of a sudden you're seeing all these kids with growth plate cracks and all these injuries, and like I said, it's just, we have to really just stop and start doing a little bit of research on our own as parents, and just figure out, is this healthy? Is this what, I should be doing for my 10, 11-year-old kid? And not look like, hey, one of the pros is doing it, so I should do it. I mean, there's a process to be able to become a pro, so, there's so much stuff what's going on with the new generation, but I don't like the fact that everyone is saying the new generation and just referring to the kids, because it's not the kids' fault. I think it's the parents of the new generation that are allowing all this to happen. And like I said, we have kids or parents that will come in here and complain about playing time, and we're going to leave if this doesn't happen. That's not the kid. Like, the kid doesn't want to leave this program, right? It's the parents making those decisions. They're getting their feelings, they're getting their emotions involved, instead of just letting the kid play baseball and do what he wants to do and be around the people he wants to be around. It's like, it's their ego. So, I mean, that's the whole generation thing. I mean, I hope I answered about the generation, but I'm not going to change the generation. Like I said, I'm here to be a leader and change travel baseball, the culture. And then again, I'm selling my program short, because that's a big thing that we teach here with our kids. I mean, I teach my kids every single day, like, don't be a follower. It's easy to be a follower. It's easy to run with a pack. Anyone can do it. It's easy to be average, right? It's tough to be a leader. It's tough to say, you know what, this is not me, and pull yourself aside and do what's right. Right, that's the tough stuff.
Well, that's what off the air, Jason and I were talking, and it was when I first told him that, when he said, I want to do this podcast and I want to get my thoughts out there and just all the regulations, everything I'm doing. It's a big move, because I told him, I said, you're going to have some mud in your face. You're going to have some, hate coming towards you, where it might not be from the direct, it might be somebody from the past that doesn't like, whatever it is. But there's a lot of negative that comes along with, putting your voice on the air and speaking about what you believe in. And I think the cool thing that what you told me was like, I don't care, I want to get it out, and I want to learn too. And so I think that's where it comes down to. And so we answered only 2 questions a day because I think a lot of the questions we had actually were involved with these 2 questions. So if your question wasn't answered and you reach out to us, feel free to reach out to us again. That's the first Wednesday answering the question, Train More Play Less. That's episode 1. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you guys on Monday. As always, follow us on all of our social media accounts. We are at Train More Play Less, which is on Instagram. We'll put everything on the bio at the very bottom of the caption as well, so you know where to find us. But always here to give good content, and we'll see you guys next time.